Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you how to build epic detailed castles like this, in timescales as low as 3 hours, and trust me, it's a lot easier than you'd probably think. Starting off, you'll want to find a decent location. For example, I chose this area right by the sea on a cliff, which is typical of real castles. If you're like me and are a creative mode builder, I would recommend shaping up the landscape a little. It doesn't have to be that fancy. What I would usually do is smooth up the landscape with World Edit and also add some stone to the cliff. Now for the actual build, this will be divided into a good old 3-phase approach. Phase 1 is shaping for the castle, Phase 2 is the colouring and texturing, or in other words, filling in the canvas created in Phase 1. Finally, Phase 3 is the final details like windows, roofs, and smaller finishing touches. Pretty simple once you break it down. So getting started on Phase 1, you'll want to get some wool and begin shaping out how you want your build to look. However, make sure not to go into too much detail. I just work out the basic shape of the towers and walls, and it works just fine for me. When shaping up your build, make sure you don't build too symmetrical, or your build will end up looking really generic, and just like every other castle. There are loads of things you can do to spice up your build, like using varying shapes and sizes for your towers, making some towers stick out and be connected by a bridge, or even adding a chapel-like build. Honestly, just experiment with your build and see what works for you. Moving on to Phase 2, you'll need to make a decent block palette. A great way to mix this up is by using a gradient like I did it in this build. I started with deep slate at the bottom, which transitions into tough, stone, diorites, and eventually calcites. Putting lighter blocks at the top draws your eyes up, and therefore makes your build appear a lot taller. You'll also want to pick an accent block. I chose spruce wood, as it works quite nicely with the heavy use of stone. Then start filling in the canvas with the main block palette, and make sure to use your accent block around the corners. A way to speed this up is by making one segment of the gradient and copy and paste the rest, as it will take you absolute ages otherwise, and let's be honest, nobody would really notice. Now for the final and arguably most important phase, Phase 3, you'll be working on all the details. There are several things to be done during this phase. I usually start by finishing off the walls with my accent block like so, incorporating a small amount of detail. Next, I would usually finish off the roofs. However, to add a small amount of variation, I would usually leave one tower with a flat roof, usually the square and wider tower. The roofs are pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it, and at this point, you're really starting to feel the build come together. However, the thing that provides a true night and day difference is windows. Since I couldn't be bothered to do the interior for this build, I just made a dent in my walls and filled it with black concrete like this. Bad windows are probably the main thing that brings a build down in my opinion, and you can probably tell as the before and after of adding these is like night and day. Finally, add the finishing touches, like some detail, texturing, and just finish off all of the unfinished areas. I actually forgot to add an entrance here, but honestly, most people wouldn't notice anyway. And just like that, you're done. This took me just under 3 hours to complete, which is pretty decent if I do say so myself. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.